Hey everyone, welcome to the Vienna Whyte Roundtable Season 1, Episode 16. My name is Millie Rouge, I'm your host. I'm from the band Vienna Whyte, and this roundtable today is brought to you by, it's a Yeg Music production, and today we have 3 guests that I'm actually very excited to have. A lot of the guests I've been interviewing lately, I've never actually physically met them, so I'm excited to actually interview people that I've had full-on discussions with and actually met in real life. So I'm so happy to have you guys here today. I just want to start off with the introductions. If you guys could just say your name and where you're from. Let's start off with Whitney.
I am Whitney Boris. I'm from St. Albert, Alberta.
Beautiful. And 1062.
We are 1062. I'm Joel.
I'm Sobe.
And we're from Edmonton.
Perfect. And Jeremy, just stand it off.
Hey, I'm Jeremy, and I'm currently in Victoria, but I was also in Edmonton, and I grew up in Vancouver.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being a part of today's show. I actually want to just start off talking about today your guys' musical journeys and careers. I know you kind of all have a different, which most musicians do all have a different kind of story to tell. So Whitney, I actually want to start off with you today, and then we'll kind of go down the line. Can you tell us a little bit about your musical journey so far and how you kind of got from point A to point B of where you are now with your musical career?
Sure. I kind of feel like I haven't gotten that far in my musical journey. I was in lots of competitions growing up. I took voice lessons, piano, a little bit of guitar, and then I taught myself the rest for guitar. I didn't like lessons so much. And yeah, I was in lots of competitions in St. Albert, which, to be honest, I hated. I do not have a competitive side really at all. And I'm just going to say right now, I have really bad performance anxiety. So I'm actually very shy when it comes to music. I was even nervous for this today. I was like, you know what, I should do it and put myself out there. I'm trying to meet other musicians and talk about it more. I feel like that'll help. So yeah, I was doing competitions for my most of high school, and then my anxiety about it got so bad that I wanted to stop. Mm-hmm. And my parents pulled me from voice lessons, and I didn't perform for I think 5 years. But I continued posting on Instagram and Facebook. So people always think that I'm brave for posting things online, but that's actually the most comfortable I could be because I record those things by myself. That's like my happy place when I'm just singing by myself and posting things I don't feel scared about anymore. So I like to share it that way. And then you actually reached out to me, Yeg Music reached out to me to do one of their shows, and I was so scared for that. I did it, but I did, other people probably didn't see the mistakes as much as I did, but, I forgot the chords, I forgot words a lot, I was messing up. I had so many friends there with me and my family, and I had so much support, but I was still so scared, and I beat myself up about it after. Like it actually wasn't a good experience for me. Other people might have seen that I was doing okay, but I think I'm good at putting on a face like I'm having fun and everything's fine, but inside I felt so bad. Like I was so upset that I forgot so many things. And yeah, after that I was gonna keep trying, but again, like the anxiety of it kind of got in the way, and I declined to do more shows. I said I was going to stop doing it altogether, and since then I continue with Instagram. Like in my music, Instagram is separate from my personal one, and I started writing music. That's just been the past year now. Mm-hmm. I was always intimidated to try that. I wish I would have tried it sooner, actually, because once I started, I feel like I opened up so much, and I was really shocked at some of the things I was able to come up with. So that's been really exciting for me over the past year. I miss performing. There's definitely a part of me that does like it and find it exciting, and I I have dreams with music, but it's still a big struggle for me. That's why I still haven't been back out there. So
Yeah, it's definitely like one step at a time with music, and I think that's really like actually this ties really well into the next question I was going to ask you, but it's really good that you're tapping into like your songwriting abilities and you're kind of just like slowly building yourself up, because I think sometimes with music it can feel like a lot of the time you have to really like just jump into it and have everything fully prepared, like you have to have your backup dancers ready to go and your backup vocalist, but sometimes it's just like you got to start off simple, right? And the more you go from there, it'll just develop itself, right? So my question for you is, and this is actually really interesting that you brought up songwriting, but what are your favorite moments when you are songwriting? How do you find songwriting makes you feel?
so late when I sit down, if I'm feeling inspired or I try to do something, I've been using, I'm sure everybody does this, like the voice memo app or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I just record myself the whole time because I don't want to miss something and then forget it. And interestingly enough, I've done a lot of it in my car driving. So without instruments or anything, I might come up with just a melody that I like or something's on my mind, and I'll just record myself on my phone as I'm driving. And that's where some of my favorite stuff has come out. I don't know why, but it's been cool. And then after that, I tried doing it with piano and guitar. So I'd come up with like a chord progression I liked and just start singing on top of that. I find the process of songwriting so vulnerable that whenever I've thought about doing it with someone else, that scares me so much. Like when I'm alone, I can just go for it and like whatever comes out, it's fine. I'm by myself, so I'm not going to be embarrassed. But yeah, I would like to collaborate with other people a lot more. I think that would help with everything.
Absolutely, yeah. I recently this summer too, or last summer, I went out and I basically collabed with a bunch of songwriters, and I think it's really beautiful to do that because you really learn about all these different artists, and kind of everyone seems to have a different style of how they write, whether they say it or not. Everyone has a very different kind of style, so it's totally different, and it's really kind of opens up your mind to be like, okay, there are different ways I can songwrite. I don't have to write exactly the same way every single time. So that's really awesome to hear. Thank you so much for sharing, Whitney. I wanted to move along to Jeremy and then end it off with 1062. Jeremy, can you tell us a little bit about your musical journey so far and how you've kind of gotten from, again, point A to point B to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say it's more than 2 points, A to B. I'd say it's all over the place, and A to Z, and adding in a whole bunch of letters and directions all over the place.
Yes.
So it's been a crazy journey. I would say that my musical interest has always been there, but it probably started with watching the talent shows, like American Idol with my mom every single Wednesday. And when I was like 8, 9 years old, I said, I want to do that, Mom. I want to learn how to sing like that. So that's always stuck with me, as putting these performers up on a big pedestal in my mind, and I wanted to be like them. But to actually get there, it is a very long journey.
Yes.
And I put that ambition aside, and throughout high school and into university, I'm 23 now, and I'm not in school, but I'm going back into, and I'll get to that in a second. I did sports was my concentration. I didn't do any arts whatsoever. So I did, 5-6 hour training days for wrestling and rugby and football. And that was my life, and just singing in the car where no one could hear me, and that was about it. And then so that got me through high school, pushing away my artistic side and keeping it just in the back. And then into university, I posted some stuff online, similar to you, Whitney. I'm very nervous around performing live. With practice, definitely gets easier. My first live show was with IG Music. It was awesome. It was an awesome experience. The show itself, I don't think was super great for my performance, but learned a lot and still progressing. But most of my performance now is online. and most of my learning comes from recording myself and understanding what I'm doing and looking at it critically, but also compassionately, and knowing that I'm going to progress and not to beat myself up about it every single time. So in university, I started posting stuff online, and then eventually I got more confidence and starting doing regularly. And flash forward, I'm no longer studying sciences, dropped out of that and moved to BC to live with family here. And I decided, well, I want to take this further. So I started writing my own music seriously, and I started vocal lessons for the first time, and have been changing a lot of things and a lot of habits that I was doing before, and trying to channel them into my own artist voice that I want to carry forward. So it's I feel similar to what you said, Whitney. You may not feel like you're at a certain point yet. I also can relate to that. I feel like I'm just starting out, and I think a lot of people, no matter where they are, they still feel that they have a long way to go. And I haven't released any of my own music officially, but I will be. I have an album that's being mixed and mastered right now. That's coming out pretty darn soon.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. Yeah, and it's going to be some really personal stories that I've gone through in this last year. It's been a lot of ups and downs, and music has been my way to express those feelings, and I can channel them into something creative and constructive. So music's saved me in that way, and now I get to actually share it, which has been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding my voice has been a long process, and along the way I've learned I don't really tend to learn things in a structured way. I learn, audio production here, video production, and learn everything all mixed in. But I'm excited for moving forward. I feel like I'm now at a place where I have a little bit of something to share, and I'm looking forward to connecting with some more musicians such as you guys today. So that's cool.
Absolutely. I think a lot of artists, kind of to what you guys are saying, like I think they all kind of struggle with that feeling of they're never fully ready, or they're never fully to that point of success. So I think even like very, very successful artists, I think even still feel that way, like, oh, I'm just at my beginning stage, like I'm not quite there yet. So I think it's kind of that battle of how you can kind of overcome that, for sure. And this is going to beautifully tie into our topic of the day. But Jeremy, I wanted to ask you one last question before we move on to 1062. Sure. I've watched a couple of your YouTube videos, and you've got a really nice setup for recording, and you've really kind of mastered, I think, what it takes to have really good videos on YouTube. Could you give some advice or tips for anyone who wants to kind of start out in that YouTube world, but is not sure where to start? Like, can you kind of take us through how you got to putting out those videos? Really well done.
Yikes. Advice. I feel like I am not in a place to give advice, but I won't say how to do things, because I'm looking back on my videos and saying, oh, this looks terrible. I am doing a music video for every song on my album, and I'm having to redo them all because I didn't clear the lens. And you can see like little red dots everywhere on the screen. So, and I forgot to turn on the backlighting and everything, so it looks all wonky. I would say to anyone who wants to get better at getting a setup and finding your own thing that works for you, which in my case, I'm not there yet, and I want to still get way better. It's to set a regime, whether it's once a week is something that I can do. And I look back at them every single time and think critically, why is this working? And what I can do for next time. And then I compare. I look at, say, what are the top other cover artists? What are they doing? And maybe I can't get the big fancy camera, but I can do that kind of shot, and I can mix it in with another kind of shot, even if it's just from my phone. And if I don't have all the equipment, then how can I still be in a good setting, in an environment that still looks really good? So that's what I've been doing with my covers lately, is just setting up a camera in my bedroom / recording studio, and I set up a camera next to some good lighting, and it's a relatively sound treated environment. So it's a lot of testing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a lot of working and working and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I really like that though. That really shows like how motivated you are as an individual to just keep trying and keep learning from that for sure.
Always.
Thank you for sharing, Jeremy. That was really awesome. Now 1062, I'm curious to know, well, a few things, but can you tell us about kind of your guys' musical journey together? And I'm also very curious to know, I don't think I actually know the meaning behind the name 1062 either, if you can dive into that for me.
That's fine.
Sure. Yeah, I'll I'll tie our name into our story.
Beautiful.
So we both studied music composition in university. And so that's where we met. We were paired in an ensemble that was a touring ensemble for the university. So we got to sing live on stage and tour across the middle of Canada, which sounds cooler than it is because it's just a lot of fields. And so we got to do that and sing and perform together a lot. Joel was the piano player for the group. I was one of the vocalists. And it was just like this super fun time and also like a crazy amount of work. But that's kind of where we started. We were in a songwriting class together, heard each other's songs, and we're like, hey, let's try, we have similar styles. Let's try writing some things together. So one summer, in between like our second and third year of university, we sat down and we wrote like 10 songs. And then we were like, well, what do we do with them now?
We could probably try performing them, or that's how they're gonna go. And
so then we started a band because we were like, we could try and sell them, or we could, so other people don't wreck them, we'll just do them. And so that's kind of how we started, played our first show, and then in that process was trying to find a band name. And so one thing we've noticed with a lot of artists is everything is about nature, and we were not wanting our name to have anything to do with nature. So my father he actually just retired from the RCMP, and they have radio codes that mean certain things. So 1062 is a radio code that means there are unauthorized listeners present. So you can't talk about what you want to talk about. So that's kind of where our name came from. It was kind of
very cool
and tied to our history. And and then we, have toured a bit. We went out to Ontario last summer, did a couple shows out there, and came back across. So now we're in Edmonton. And
and kind of the next thing that we're doing right now is we are gearing up for some more releases, and we're trying to get a little bit, we have one single that's coming out next week, and then we are working on an EP. And during this time that we have at home, we're just kind of like finalizing the songwriting and the production and starting to do bits of it at home, doing home recording, and gearing up to try and use this time as best we can to get some more music out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a good time to do that for sure, unfortunately. But I'm curious to know, as a duo compared to being just a single artist, what things are easier as a duo, and maybe what things are harder or more complicated when you're a duo together?
I think one thing that at least our dynamic as a duo that goes really well is our songwriting process, and being able to just constantly bounce ideas back and forth. And I think it helps when we are writing songs. It doesn't feel like, I'm just getting stuck. I have no idea what to do, because when you're at that point, the other person can jump in with an idea and take it from there. Actually, Whitney, we were laughing when you were talking about your songwriting process, because we have like the exact same thing. We put that voice notes thing on, it'll run for like an hour. We keep track of all those ideas, and the number of songs that have started from like a voice memo in a car ride, I can't even count the number.
like most of them.
I think something that is harder, is there's the element of we have to agree on every decision that's being made for our, our music and our branding and our photos and what we do. And so, there's an element of, you can't always make quick decisions on everything, because we have to make sure that we're going back and forth and that we agree on what we're going to do.
And the nice thing about our relationship too is, even if we don't agree, we can discuss it. And we do find common ground, because we've established that we said we always come to an agreement of some sort. We're going to have to compromise. It's just the way it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I recently started a project called Vienna Whyte, as you guys are probably aware of. And it's the two of us actually. We're actually a duo as well, and we met in McEwen, so it's kind of similar to your guys' story as well. But definitely, like, I think there's that element of like, we have to make a decision together, but sometimes your interests and your likes of like color, for example, or if you're editing a poster, right? And you're like, I think we would do really well with the color pink. And they're kind of like, okay, well, I kind of hate pink, so I kind of I want to do blue. So you have to find this common ground of like, maybe purple, and you're both like, yes, purple will work, right? So
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting relationship. But I mean, I think you guys can say for yourselves too, like, I'm really blessed to have someone who is really, really similar to me in like a good way, and also can be kind of sometimes a bad way, but it really works because we really blend well together just because we're so similar. And I think you guys probably obviously share that too, for sure. What I'm curious to know, what are some of your guys' influences in your music? Who are kind of those top artists that you guys really look up to or are inspired by for your own music project?
I think, yeah, there's a number of different artists that influence us. You know, we kind of we call ourselves a mixture between pop and soul, and we have these pop influences, but also kind of these soul and gospel influences as well. So, you know, we some artists that we really love are like Sam Smith and Emily Sandé, and you know, kind of for the pop side of things. But then we also love having a horn section present in our live performances and in our recordings. So artists like Brass Tracks or Need to Breathe that, you know, have that brass ensemble element to it. You know, we kind of take influence from them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing a little bit more about each of your journeys. We're actually going to dive into our topic of the day now. And with this, again, this is open for anyone to discuss. So anyone can answer these questions. If you don't resonate with the question as much, feel free to not answer, but I mean, preferably if you can all answer, that's awesome. So our topic of the day today is how to accept setbacks in music. So with our topics of the day, I really like to leave listeners that maybe are musical as well, or just in life in general, with something to kind of think about and to get some advice from people that are in the music industry and that have experience with performing and live music and songwriting. So with setbacks in music, it's a very, very common theme. It's a very, very common category. I think all of you kind of discussed it in your little introductions of times where you've dealt with setbacks and kind of how you've overcome them. So I want to kind of open this question up with, can you explain a time where you as an artist had a setback and how you overcame it, or how you basically grew from it? Now, you don't have to tell me the exact setback, but just kind of a generalized theme of how you kind of grew from that experience. So Jeremy, maybe do you want to start us off and tell us about an experience maybe you had similar to this?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to rack my brains around some specific point, and it'll come to me after a bit of rambling.
That's okay.
So I would say that whenever a setback comes to me, maybe I want to towards some. It doesn't always have to be the same thing, but if a setback happens, maybe, you know what, I do have a little story. I have had vocal damage before that's lasted a little bit, not serious, but a little bit amount of time. And I do train every day. And I have a very specific regime and things that I want to get to and notes on the piano that I try and maintain. But when I lost my voice for a little bit, I had to take a break. And that was very, very frustrating. So I said, well, what else can I do? Right. So I wrote a lot. And I worked on my guitar skills, and I worked on my piano skills and my production skills and marketing skills and learning more. So if an area is lost in one thing, think of the other things and maybe time opportunity that you have to do something else. Yeah. Another thing was moving. And I lost all of the space that I had for recording cool videos. I had a specific studio set up with a bunch of awesome equipment and gear and everything, and I lost that when I moved city. Not to mention just financial loss. I couldn't afford to put projects together, so I got really good. I shouldn't say that. I didn't get really good, but I practiced a lot at making content that was more accessible and concentrating on doing as much as possible with what little tools I had.
That's awesome. I really love that. That's taking what you have and just growing from it. That's really, really awesome to hear.
And directing focus sometimes when you need to.
Absolutely. Yeah. 1062, I guess we'll kind of work our way backwards. Do you guys kind of want to tell us maybe a setback you've had and how you guys have grown from that?
Yeah, I think, one of the things with being in music is, you have there's a lot of things that you end up applying for, whether that's like grant funding or festival applications or like playlist curators or blogs or, you name it. There's all of these different things that you end up applying for, in the hopes that you can be a part of them. And I think being in this business, you have to be okay that the percentage rates for acceptance on those are quite low. And so you have to build up this resilience of, somebody not liking your music, somebody not liking that song, and which is hard because you've invested so much time and you wrote it. And it's like a creative piece of you to have someone be like, I don't really like the sound of that. You have to build up that confidence in, what, someone else might not like it, but this is the music that I care about. This is the music that I want to write, that we want to write. And we're going to keep going with it, and there will be someone along the way who does like it and does, want to, whether it's promote it or feature, us in a performance or something along those lines.
And I think like one thing that's really helped us, especially when we are feeling really quite upset about bad news, or we get a really firm no, and you're just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, you ask yourself that question in those moments. Having a support system around you is so important. Even if it's each other or one other person or a family member or a friend, just somebody that's like, okay, you had a bad day, well, tomorrow we'll pick your bootstraps up and keep going. Like, it's having those people around you are important.
Absolutely. I think support systems are huge. I actually talked about this on a roundtable chat with some other artists, but support systems are huge. It's just how you continue as an artist and how you can, a lot of artists, it's really hard to survive without having a support system. So I think that's a really, really good point. Now, Whitney, you talked a lot about, in your introduction, kind of about your experience of facing a lot of setbacks just through just nerves and anxiety. So you've obviously come back into that music realm. You took some time off, but you came back. So what kind of things helped you to kind of cope through that and to kind of want to continue to do this career of music?
I would say the biggest thing for me is to keep going, even if it's alone. Like, although I'm not doing performances and I would decline great offers just because I was scared, or stopped going with the music because I was scared. It's always been important for me to keep doing it by myself, whether it's just recording it at home, posting it online. I did start writing, which was, the biggest change I think lately. And if you're able to, travel inspired me a lot. I know we can't do that right now, but last summer I got to go to Nashville, which was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. I don't know if anybody else here has been there, but if you haven't, I strongly suggest you go. I got to go to one of those songwriters places. I don't know what you would call them, but like a showcase. It'd be a performance somewhere.
Okay.
And it'd be like 5 songwriters on a stage, and they cycle through a few times. They talk about their song before, and then they play it, and everybody in the audience is completely silent. That was really inspiring, and I connected with some of the people that I got to watch perform. But I think being somewhere where you're constantly surrounded by music and other people who share the same passions, it's really hard to not be inspired by it and want to keep going. Like, whenever I see somebody performing and you can just see the joy that they're experiencing, like, that always relights the fire in me and it reminds me of what I love, and that it's important to push past the fears of it, because it could really be worth it. And
yeah, absolutely. I think I actually have the same experience with you. Every time I go to like a huge live concert, it almost, like, when you see the lights and the staging and like everything that goes into it, I think it's really, really like inspiring. And for me, it helps me to feel more like, okay, like, this is what I like doing. This is what I enjoy doing. I'm going to continue to do this. Yeah, so I kind of want to dive into our next, I mean, this is, again, the same topic, but what do you find are some good coping mechanisms for you guys where maybe you face a setback? What are some ways that you yourself kind of recover from that? And this is more along the lines of, I guess, like self-care and kind of how you keep yourselves as an artist really motivated and able to continue during that time. So maybe we'll start with 1062 this time, if that works for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think for us, it's a combination of things, and it can just depend on the day. The basics of health are so important. So like getting enough sleep, make sure you're drinking enough water, you're eating right, like you're getting outside a little bit, like all of those really simple things make a huge difference. That like, those are kind of like my go-tos. It's just like those easy things.
If we get really bad news, though, we go to this donut shop called Ohana Donuts and purchase some of those. And that's always a pick-me-up.
And they're like super delicious donuts.
They are. They really are.
Still open during this pandemic, and that's amazing.
That's amazing.
And I think besides that, something else for me is like just trying to return to, what do I enjoy and what do I like about music, and trying to, gain some inspiration from that. So for me, like I grew up doing classical piano and playing that for years and years. So sometimes, I'll just go back and take out a piece that I really like and play through that, because it's a reminder of like, okay, there is enjoyment in music. There is like, despite the setback, there's a reason why you persist with it and keep going.
Absolutely. Jeremy, can you kind of dive into some of ways that you have found self-care through kind of getting through that moment of setbacks? What kind of has helped you to get your mind kind of cleared?
Sure. Well, along with remaining and finding the joy in whatever you're doing, for me, I try and learn a lot of things at once with regards to music all over the place, not just singing performance, but that's always been my joy. So if a view that I post gets a lot of negative comments, which has definitely happened a lot, I'm getting better at not taking that to heart, but I remember, well, why do I like this? It's because it feels good when I make sound in this way. So that's why I'm going to keep doing it. And then also having the benefit of recorded and posted so much online. Some of it is not available now that I just, they're unlisted, so only I can see them, is that I look back to what maybe I was doing 3 years ago and compare where I am now, and to compare the progress and feel progression that I've already made. This temporary setback compared to what it may have been like years ago, it's nothing. There's a progression in it, and it's all a journey. So the setback is just a little dip in the overall climb upwards.
Absolutely. And Whitney, what are some ways kind of you found to kind of soothe that like anxiety or that nervousness when you're like, I had a huge setback, how do I kind of recover from that? What are some ways that you kind of cope with that?
I think first off, I would go to people that I love and who love me. I'm really lucky to have a great support system of friends and my parents. Like I couldn't ask for better fans. Like everyone in my life just wants me to do music so bad, and they just want to see me shine and like go out there. And I think people that don't do music, or maybe don't have any nerves, which I can't imagine, can't wrap their head around like, oh, I see this person, I see that they're talented, how can they not just go up there and do it? Like they don't really understand some of the mental blocks that come with it. For sure. But so my family and friends, they're the greatest to talk to. They always boost me up. But other than that, listening to music and just appreciating it always helps me in general anxiety in my life. I was so excited when you guys mentioned Need to Breathe, because I love them so much. I cannot say enough good things about them. Like I went to their concert last year by myself, and I took a bunch of videos, like, and so sometimes when I feel anxious or I'm sad or something, I'll go back and look at those live performances. I watch them on YouTube all the time. Something about his voice and their music all together, it's just like, can't explain it. It just really fills my heart up every time I hear it. So things like that, like some of my favorite artists I always go back to, and it can be really comforting to just sit and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for sharing about that. That is actually all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of the Roundtable Talk today. It was lovely having you guys all on. Thank you, Whitney, 1062, and Jeremy for all joining. To end it off, what I kind of want to do is I just want to go through everyone, and can everyone just let us know again who you are and where you can find yourselves on social media.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at WhitBMusic. I also have Facebook, and you can find that by Whitney B Music, but Instagram I post the most.
You can find us on Instagram at ten62.
And we're also on Facebook as well, and it's just x62 search tab.
On Instagram, that's where I post the most frequently, probably, and that is at Jeremy James Life. And on Facebook, it's at Jeremy James Music. So, and
Awesome.
Jeremy James is also the artist name on YouTube.
Beautiful. Okay, well, thank you guys all so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.